video. As you know, there are a couple of stocks on a tire sector. So today in this video, you're going to learn about the best 8 tire sector stocks where you can make your investments. So let's understand deeply about each individual stocks. So let's get started with the video. If you are new to our channel, please do subscribe, and if you like this video, give us a like. So let's get started with it. The 8th position which is there on the sector, the 8th stock is Rupfilla International Limited. So let's understand what are they into and what products they are into. So basically the first product is talc coated rubber thread, and the second one is silicone coated rubber thread, and the last one is colored rubber thread. See, these are the products on Rupfilla International Limited. So moving forward, what is the current CMP of it is 89.1, and the market cap is around 484 crores. So let's understand the fundamental part of it. The return on capital employed is about 28.4%, and return on equity is about 21.1%. So, and further moving, let's understand the promoter holding. The promoter holding is about 57.2%, and the promoter pledged percentage is 0. So basically the pledged percentage of the promoter holding is 0 on this particular stock. Moving forward, let's understand the other products which they are into. Basically, they are into this furniture grade rubber thread. They are into the medical applications rubber threads, and they are into food or meat packing rubber threads. So these are the other products they are actually into. So this is the dividend declared history of the stock. You can just check all the ex-date and the amount of dividend they have issued, and the dividend yield for this particular stock is about 1.96%. And this is about the company. They are the only and the largest Indian manufacturers who manufacture talcum coated and silicone coated rubber threads, and this also produces premium products in the area of toys, fishing, meat packing, which you just checked in the previous slide. And they have a consistent in the growth since last few years, and they are the only player which has expanded the install capacity by 250%. That is where you can see the growth of the rubber industry, rubber thread markets. And the current capacity now stands at this 17,500 tons. So this is all about the 8th stock which we explained, that is about Rupfilla International Limited. So let's understand certain fundamental, fundamental part about this particular stock. Moving forward, let's understand their sales and the profits of this stock. If you see the compounded sales growth for the last 3 years, it is about 25%. And if you check for 5 and 10 years, respectively, it is 19% and 16%. Similarly, if you check the compounded profit growth, for 3 years, it is about 34%, and for 10 years, it's about 16%. Similarly, going forward, if you check what is the stock performance, as if you have invested on this particular stock, the CAGR return for 1 year is about minus 11%. When it comes to about 10 years, it's about 14%. Similarly, on the right hand side, you can check the return on equity. Last year it has been 21%. Similarly, if you check for 5 years, it's about 17%, and for 10 years it is about 18%. So this is all about the 8th stock, that is Rupfilla International Limited. So let's see what is on the 7th position. Okay, on the 7th position, it is TVS Sri Chakra Limited. So let's understand more about this particular stock. And the current market price of this is 2,519, and the market cap of this is 1,932 crores. Let's understand the rate on capital employed is about 7.37%, and ROE is 5.05%. The promoter holding on this particular stock stands at 45.4%, and the pledge promoter holding stands at 0%. So let's understand more about Sri Chakra stock. So they were incorporated in 1982, and it's a part of TVS Group, and they are the manufacturers of two and three wheeler tires and also an exporter. And they are the suppliers of original equipment to the TVS Motors and other leading brands as well. Okay. And this is the dividend history for this particular stock. If you can check all the dividend history on this side, and the dividend yield of this particular stock stands at 0.65%. And let's understand more about the fundamental part of it. This compounded sales growth of this particular stock stands at 3% for 3 years at 1%, and for 10 years it's about 6%. Similarly, on the compounded growth rate, for 3 years it's about minus 24%, and for 10 years it's about 1%. And the stock price, if you see the CAGR returns on this particular stock, on one year it's about 8%, 3 years stands at 12%, and 10 years stands at 24%. And the return on equity as well stands for 3 years at 8%, and for 10 years it stands 18% respectively. So this is all about the TVS Sri Chakra stock, which stands at 7th positions. So let's understand going forward the next stock, which stands at the 6th place. And the 6th stock is Goodyear India Limited. And let's understand the CMP of it. The current CMP of it is 1022, and the market cap is around 2358 crores. And the return on capital employed is 18%, and return on equity is about 13.2%, and the promoter holding stands at 74%, and the pledged promoter holding stands at 0%. So let's understand the dividend part of this particular stock. You can see the dividend declared history of this particular stock here, and the dividend yield of Goodyear India Limited stands at 1.96%. So let's understand more about the sales growth of this particular company. For 3 years, the compounded sales growth stands at 8%, and for 10 years it stands at 5% respectively. Similarly, on a compounded growth rate, for 3 years stands at 0%, or if you see for 5 years it stands at minus 4%, and for 10 years it stands at 5%. On the CAGR return of this particular stock, if you check out, for 5 years it is about 5%, and for 10 years it stands at 12% respectively. And the return on equity stands at for 5 years it's about 14%, and for 10 years it stands at 16%. So this is all about the Goodyear India Limited, which is on the 6th place. Going forward, let's understand the 5th place. And the 5th place stands at JK Tyre and Industries Limited. The current CMP, that is a current market price of this, stands at 171, and the market cap of this is 4,194 crores, and return on capital employed stands at 9.32%, and return on investment stands at 7.23%, and the promoter holding stands at 56.3%, and the pledge percentage of the promoter holding stands at 0%. So they are the top they are into the top 25 manufacturers in the world. And if you understand more about the JK Tyre industry, they are the flagship company of JK Group, which is added by Dr. R.P. Singhania, and and its chairman and managing director. And they are one of the leading tire manufacturers in India. As I said, they are in the top 25th manufacturers in this particular sector. And this is about the dividend industry, dividend history of this JK Tires. Um, and the dividend yield stands at 0.88% for this particular stock. If you check the compounded sales growth of JK Tyre, for 5 years it stands at 9%, and for 10 years at 6%. And the compounded growth, if you check for 5 years, compounded growth for profit growth, if you check for 5 years it's -9, and for 10 years it stands about 54% respectively. And if you check out the CAGR return of this particular stock, for 3 years it stands at 35%, and for 10 years it stands 21% respectively. And return on investments stand for 3 years at 10%, and for 10 years at 15% respectively. So this is all about JK Tyre and Industries, which is at the 5th place. So going forward, on the 4th place, you can check it is CEAT Limited. So let's understand more about CEAT. The current market price of this particular CEAT is 1,522, and the market cap stands at 6,157 crores, and return on capital employed stands at 6.35%, and return on equity stands at 2.5%, 2.59%, and the promoter holding of this is 47.2%, and the pledge promoter holding stands again at 0%. So this is the dividend declared history of CEAT Limited. If you are going to check about the dividend yield, it's 0.2% for this CEAT Limited. And the compounded sales growth for CEAT Limited stands for 5 years at 10%, and 10 years it stands at 7% respectively. And compounded profit growth for 5 years stands -26%, and for 10 years it stands at 15%. So this is all about CEAT Limited, and which is at the 4th place. Going forward, let's see the stock. So let's understand the CAGR return of this CEAT Limited. For 3 years it stands about 16%, and for 10 years it stands at 29%. And return on equity for last year stands at 3%, for 3 years at 9%, and 10 years at 13% respectively. This is all about CEAT Limited. On the 3rd place, we have Apollo Tyres Limited. So let's understand more about Apollo Tyres. The current market price of it stands at 289, and the market cap stands at 18,377 crores, and return on capital employed stands at 6.98%. Return on investment, return on equity stands at 5.49%, and the promoter holding is 37.3%, and the pledge percentage of the promoter holding stands at 3.05%. And this is the dividend history of Apollo Tyres Limited. The dividend yield for this Apollo Tyres stands at 1.12%. And if you check about the fundamentals of it, the compounded sales growth for 3 years stands at 6%, for 5 years at 10%, and for 10 years it's at 6.6% respectively. And if you check about the compounded growth rate, for 3 years stands -9, for 5 years it stands at -10, and for 10 years it stands at 4% respectively. If you want to check on the CAGR returns of this particular stock, if you check for 3 years, it stands at 16%, and for 1 year it stands at 36%, and 10 years it stands at 13% respectively. And the return on investment for 5 years stands at 7%, and for 10 years it stands at 11%. So this is all about Apollo Tyres Limited. On the 2nd position, we have MRF. The current Current price of MRF stands at 89,368 rupees, and the market cap of it is 37,867 crores, and return on capital employed stands at 7.05%, and return on equity stands at 4.85%, and the promoter holding stands at 27.9%, and the pledge percentage of it stands at 0%. So this is the basic the details of MRF. Let's see the dividend history of it. The dividend yield for MRF stands at 0.17%. If you want to check on the fundamental part, the compounded sales growth of MRF for 3 years it stands at 6%, and 10 years it stands at 7% respectively. And compounded profit growth for a 3 year stands minus 16%, and for 10 years stands at 7% respectively. If you want to check the CAGR return of this particular stock, for 1 year it stands at 15%, for 5 years at 7%, and for 10 years at 24% respectively. And return on investing, last year it stands at 5%, for 5 years at 10%, and for 10 years at 15% respectively. This is all about MRF, which is on the second position. So the last and the least, the first position, it is Balkrishna Industries. So let's understand more about it. The current price of Balkrishna Industries stands at 1,944 rupees, and the market cap of Balkrishna Industries stands at 37,583 crores, and return on capital employed stands at 23.8%, and return on investment stands at return on equity stands at 21.9%, and the promoter holding stands at 58.3%, and the pledge percentage of the promoter holding stands at 0%. So this is the dividend history of Balkrishna Industries. If you check on the dividend yield, it's 0.82% for Balkrishna Industries Limited. So let's understand the fundamentals of it. The compounded sales growth stands for 5 years at 17%, and for 10 years at 11% respectively. And compounded growth profit for 5 years stands at 17%, and for 10 years it stands at 18% respectively. The CAGR returns of this particular stock for 3 years it stands at 31%, for 5 years at 19%, and for 10 years it's 31% again respectively. Or return on equity, for 3 years it's 20%, 5 years on 19%, and for 10 years at 20% respectively. So this is all about the Balkrishna Industries Limited. Hope you enjoyed this video. This was all about the fundamental part of this particular stocks. If you're in the next video, we are going to talk about the technical view of all the stocks which we explained today in this video. So if you're new to channel, please do subscribe, and if you want us to add something to the video, or you can just give us your review on the comments. Thank you so much.